Again, my name is Frank Lorenzo, Preferred Strategies. Welcome, everybody. Before I introduce our incredible customer and guest speaker with us today, I want to hit just a few logistics. Couple of things. We really encourage questions. Everybody's muted, so we can cover a lot in a short period. But on the right panel, you will see a little question panel. If you click on that and open it up, you can just type your question. We'll monitor that. And I can't commit that we'll answer every question on the call, but I will commit if we don't answer everyone, we'll do our best to get an answer back promptly. So please keep the questions coming. We'd love to have as much dialogue as we can. Also, if that panel on the right is taking up too much screen real estate, if you look in the upper left of that panel, you'll see a little arrow facing to the right, either red or orange, depending on your hue. Click that arrow, it'll collapse the panel, and you'll have your full screen real estate. But now, without any further ado, it's my sincere pleasure to introduce to you the MIS director for the largest integrated wax manufacturer in the world, IGI Wax, Mr. Bill Sandblom. Bill, why don't you say hi to everybody, and thanks for being with us today.
Hello, everybody. It's be great to go through the things that we've been doing over the last few years with everyone.
Yeah, Bill, we appreciate it.
Were you going to? Okay, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, do you want me to share your screen? Do you have your screen ready to?
Sure. Yep, okay. Sure thing.
So, Bill, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself,
yep.
and then we'd love to hear the why, however, what brought you to this journey in the first place? And just tell us a little bit about IGI Wax and your JDE implementation, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure thing. So a little bit about myself. I grew up in a city called Sudbury, Ontario, north of Toronto, about 300 miles. Did my computer science and business degree there, and then worked for a mining company for 17 years, and then on to higher education for 5 years. And then I've been with the international group for since then for the last 16 years. And we've had JD Edwards during that time. Just a little bit more about me. What I'm doing right now is here's Toronto down here, and here is Sudbury way up here for people around here. And all these lines on here are snowmobile maps, and that's what I'm up doing this week. So I'm taking a little break from the trails. Yesterday we started. Here's where my cottage is, and that's where I am on this windy lake, and rode up through here about 50 miles of nice snow trails. And there we are. That's what it looks like in Northern Ontario. There I am with my two sons, and we had one other person with us, 4 of us, that went out for a 100-mile run yesterday. So that's what I'm doing for fun. So now we'll get into the real stuff. As Frank said, the international group, we make wax. We move about 1 billion pounds of wax a year. Our big candle customers take rail cars full of wax every week. And 25% of our wax goes into candles, apparently more these days. A lot of people burnt candles during COVID. The next bunch goes into packaging, and then tires, and then a whole bunch of other products. The company's privately owned, headquartered in Toronto, with 8 operations in the U.S. There's 2 in Pennsylvania, then we have Silver Eagle Refinery, which is located in Salt Lake City and Wyoming. And then we have one in Richmond, California by Oakland, where we have a port on the ocean to bring in extra wax. Mm-hmm. And we've just acquired a plant in Mississippi. And we're about to go live on JD Edwards with that April 1st, which will be interesting without being able to travel and implement at the same time some of the other interesting challenges.
Bill, I know how excited
in terms of our
all this. So I have to ask, when you're out in your snowmobile, can you say you don't once in a while pull up a Power BI report on your phone while you're out there?
I can't. I haven't quite done that yet. But you know what? I was looking at how I want to find a mount to put on it, because the trails are live, and it's different when you're out there trying to figure out where you are. So I'm looking for. I was looking last night on Amazon, and it looks like the closest thing they have are ones for motorcycles where they're enclosed. I got to figure out for next year how to mount one of those on my sled, and then I can keep track of everything while I'm out on the trails. But yeah, absolutely. In terms of our JD Edwards story, when I started there 15 years ago, we were on the old world product. We soon realized it was, if we were going to do anything positive and make big changes, it was time to upgrade. So we upgraded to the E1 product, I think the 2nd or 3rd year I was there. Then we spent a lot of time automating processes. And a lot of those processes that we did that I thought in the day were probably early processes, things like getting invoices to come out automatically. When we'd ship confirm a load of wax, we'd have all the documents be emailed or faxed or printed wherever they needed to go all at once. Just a lot of that stuff that got rid of manual work. And we'd spent probably 10 years doing a lot of that. We worked with a company called Syntax. They were very good. They regarded us as kind of one of their 3 or 4 forward-thinking companies with how we just look to automate processes. And that went very well. And then in 2018 is when then we kind of said, okay, that we're kind of hit diminishing returns on that. It was time to see, well, how can we, as the world started to look at business analytics and those kinds of things, it was time to start to look at how do we start to get value out of this information. And so I started initially with, I got the 3 of the big companies in, Microsoft, IBM, and Oracle in, and I got quotes from them basically on it, and they basically came back where they all said they had the best databases. That's what they all do, and then I asked them, okay, what's it going to take to build these data cubes out there? And it was going to be $50,000 a module or something like that. And that just didn't, by the time you added that up, and they said, we'll need 2-year analysts and it'll take 3 months. And I put it all together and it was going to be 3 years, 2 analysts, a bunch of risk to basically build data cubes that we could get started on. And that just seemed like a lot. And that's when I found, it was Joe, the sales rep, Preferred Strategies, and we looked at what they were going to do. And the real turning point is that the international group's always done really well in the wax industry, but more competition had hit. So a lot of where our bulk waxes, there was more companies bringing wax in from overseas and competing on price. And it was, how could we get more information, turn that information, that's data, into information so that we could start to make better decisions on things. And that was really the turning point that we got out there and started looking for what do we need to do here.
Appreciate that, Bill. And once you decided, and that you were really on a search to improve better reporting analytics, how did Power BI come into the mix? And was that something that you targeted early on as a go-to reporting solution? Or tell us a little bit about that part of your journey.
Yeah, so I'm just going to pop down to another slide that just shows a little bit about this map right here.
Great, thank you.
So after we kind of decided that we needed to get information together, basically this showed all our different systems. And the one system down here is a system that likely none of you use, but in the oil industry it's popular. It's a product called OS Suites, which is basically your operational excellence system. So it does everything from your online training to tracking incidents, management of change when you make changes into your plants, customer complaints, audits, all those kind of things. So we put that system in, and at the end of the day, we weren't really thrilled with the reporting. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't really where we wanted to go. So we talked to them about exposing their data, and we decided to use Power BI. And I think I'd say we stumbled onto it as much as anything. It looked like a good product. The first thing is it was free at the beginning. And then even after that, $5 a user or something like that, $5 or $6 a user to roll it out. So we did some really good things with it and around the OS Suite product so that we could show complaints and we could show incidents and we could show body parts and try to get trends and all that kind of stuff. And we found it quite easy to use. And we found it easy to be used without a lot of training. Our business analysts, our systems analysts did some training, and next thing they were putting these really nice screens together and the users were happy and that type of thing. So then what came along is that we realized that we needed to, as I was talking about, we needed to do something with our JD Edwards data. And that's when we found the Preferred Strategies people. And these are all the modules we have. We have most of the modules, cost, pricing, inventory, procurement, maintenance, all the accounting ones, transportation and quality. And so to do all those, it was going to be, like I say, over $1 million, lots of time, lots of risk. And when we found Preferred Strategies, it just made a lot of sense. And the fact that they were using Power BI, we said, well, that's good. We already like that product, so it fits in together. And then I guess we're a Microsoft shop, I guess is what I would say. We use at that time we were using the E3 licenses. So to tack it on, it wasn't that much per user. And then we made a decision around the same time to go with the Skype phone system, which is now the Teams phone system. So we basically moved everybody up to the E5 license. So at that point, you kind of get one of those products for free. So either Power BI is free or our phone system's free, or they're half cost. So it really worked well for us from that point of view. The other side is it's always good to see what the analysts have to say. I mean, when you look at the two things, Gartner and Forrester, you've got the product, you've got the Microsoft product up there in the top right corner where you want to be. I mean, on Gartner, it's the complete vision and ability to execute. And the same thing with good strategy and good offering, same thing with the Forrester Wave. And I went to the Gartner Analytics Conference, I think it was March 2019. And it was interesting when you walk through the vendor things, how everybody was trying to figure out how they could catch Microsoft. And I'm not saying it's the only product that works in this space, but I think they're the best product, and I think their pricing is very reasonable compared to other, and it's a quick learn for people to do things. So it really worked out well for us. When I go back to here, is that what happened is with preferred strategies, it got us into this whole thing of having a data warehouse with the SQL analytical server up and running, and so it got us to this space very quickly. So what the sales group and people tell you, preferred strategies, in 8 weeks we had this sitting here, and we had all these modules there. Now they're not live with the users. There's some work to do after, and they'll tell you that you're going to need some consulting help and that type of thing. But it also not only got all those there, it gave us a structure to add all this other data. So we kind of redid the OS Suite stuff because we brought that data in, and also some screens after where we were able to do things like marry the number of customer complaints against the number of sales orders and get percentages. We brought in, we're a process company, so we have this, we have all kinds, or a manufacturing company, so we have all kinds of PLCs, which today we call it IoT, but manufacturing companies have been doing IoT for 50 years. But basically bringing in all those signals from the PLCs into a product. We use a product called Pi, which is a historian. There's lots of different ones out there. It's the big one. And we integrated that data in. So now we had all our process data, we had all our business data, we had our operational excellence data, and then we added some. We've got a rail car system and our CRM and some other stuff. But basically within 4 or 5 months after we made this purchase, we had not only just all our JD Edwards data, but we had all our data there. And then we were able to start to build things. And it's just been leaps and bounds since then, how we've moved along.
Bill, I appreciate that. And you said a lot there. There's a few things I'd like to maybe unpack with you a little bit, if you don't mind. So you said when you came across preferred strategies, and I'm curious, just tell us more about, in your opinion, was the Microsoft and JD Edwards expertise on the preferred strategies team kind of up to your expectations? And two, how important was that? How important was that expertise, and how you feel you were treated as a partner in terms of the consulting, training, and what I like to call, Bill, the say-do ratio. When we say something, or the team said something, did it happen for you? Just tell us about that experience, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So absolutely. So we started off and bought a license where we bought it for all of these modules, whatever it is, 9 or 10 modules, and we bought a 20 user license, full well knowing that if we were successful within 3 or 4 months, we would be buying the unlimited license. And that's what happened. But so what in terms of the can do is that the data's into cubes. So we all know JD Edwards has their six character field names, which aren't very good except for the people that work on them all day long. So part of it is the fields are all renamed to fields that you understand. They normalize the data so that you end up with these nice tables. You end up with, okay, here's, let's say, all the purchasing order data, and it's all just there, and it's normalized. There are fields that you can read. The expertise is there because they go through and they look at the data. There's a little bit of back and forth, but they know that all your category codes, which you've customized, those all come across because they get the names of those and bring those across. So you've got all that data as well. Then they create these things called measures, and they're basically calculations on the data. So something like sales or something, you've got prior month, prior quarter, prior year, and they're all just fields you click on when you're building tables. So you want to build a something about sales and by customer, you list your customers, you list the year, and then you start putting in those different fields, and bang, you've got a report with all that data. And the other big benefit that you're going to get is that you end up with a common truth. You get everybody to start reporting off this central warehouse, and you don't end up with people defining, let's say, one of our challenges was cost. Well, what's that cost? No, you end up with a common cost that everybody uses. So the big part was timing. The stuff was there quickly, and as we go through and we finish implementing, we were just implementing the quality module, and it's like every time I go in and we look at a new module, it's like, wow, did they ever think that through properly and go with that? But at the same time, they're doing a great job of expanding. They keep taking feedback from the customers and asking, okay, where are the hot spots? Where can we help you? And one of the ones they're working on with us and a couple of other customers right now is the bill of materials. And if anybody is in manufacturing and they use the bill of materials, it's a bit of a monster to try and get data out of it. So they're working on, and they've showed us the schema how they're going to do it, to make it very easy to kind of look at things both ways, up and down the bill of materials. For us, right now, we're actually, with everybody burning candles, we don't have enough wax. And I don't think that's happened in the 15 years we've been there. So we're really concerned about making sure people have their forecast in. But at the same time, from us, it's with the bill of materials, it's to be able to look at a raw material and have it roll up and put it against pricing and volumes and see which customers on some of the raw materials that we don't have enough of, where do we get the most margin? And that's really hard to do, but with what they're doing for us, that's going to be positive. So aside from the delivering lots, it's not the end of the race. They keep adding stuff to us as well, and their consultants are great. When there's any little issues or questions, and it's kind of the way consultants, what you expect today. You're not signing up for a big long engagement. You have some hours with them, and it's a half hour here, an hour there, 2 hours here, and you're working remotely with them, and it works really well.
Great, Bill. I really appreciate that. And you touched on a few other areas. One, your chart really illustrates here, so I want to expand on. Like IGI Wax, many of our clients have a bulk of their data, ERP, of course, and JDE, but like you here, have their data in many other data sources. What kind of impact have you seen in having the ability, and again, you did touch on this, but to have a singular reporting tool off all of that data combined? And how do you see that helping your team?
Well, it's huge. I mean, so getting this in here, the data in from preferred strategies, that's the catalyst that got us done. And if I take a little bit, step back a little bit, where we started in is we said, okay, let's pick an area that is, let's say, simple, easier, where and you want somebody, because what you're going to do is you've got all the data there. Preferred strategies is going to give you some sample Power BI applications, which give you some good ideas. But then it's like anything else. If you buy reports, you're going to spend a bit of time on each module, sitting down with the users and saying, what are all the things? You're going to show them the samples, and you're going to show them after you've got a few modules done. You're going to show this is what we did for AR, or this is what we did for AP. You're going to show them that just to kind of get their creative juices going. And then you make a list of all the different things that they spend time on gathering data, and then you work away and you put those together. And we chose AR to start with, and I think I've got a sample screen that I can bring up here. Here's one from AR, and this is basically this is one they wanted to be able to do is pick a customer, and so they could just pick a customer on the list here, and now they can see all the accounts receivable over a long period of time. And so we worked with Faye, who was the manager, and she was very excited about it. So we gave some screens on aging, some of those basic things. And then one of the big things we did is we created kind of a customer statement that pulled all the history, how efficient the customer was at paying, were they ahead of schedule, behind schedule, and customer statements. And where the value, and you don't really know the value until you get going, but where her value ended up being is we end up with some of our customers, you wish we didn't have them, we end up with customers that are on credit hold. And in the past, she would be on a conversation because they'd be looking for more wax. In fact, sometimes the truck would even be loaded. And she would have to say with them on the phone, you know what, I'll get back to you tomorrow because this is going to take me, and she said, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to gather up all the data. Now she goes into Power BI, selects the customer, brings up the information, we use Snagit, grabs a screenshot and mails it to the person. And now there's no more debate. You are having trouble paying. You need to send us some money, wire us some money, and we'll release the wax to you. And so she saves a pile of time. it's better relationship with the customer. Maybe they would I mean, at least you're dealing with the issue right away. And some of the side things you don't even know is how much demurrage do we save by not having trucks sitting around, those types of things. So you end up with all those kind of big ones. But aside from that, though, when we go back, is that you end up getting all this other data where you need it so people can start to look at it. And I think one of the big things that you're going to do with all your data is you're going to change this. Like, I don't know, it's basically flipping this chart here. Because right now, before you go in, is you'll find that your people in all kinds of different areas are spending most of their time trying to prepare the data, maybe 20% analyzing, and a percent or two actually changing the company. And we have changed that to where this bar here is now the green bar. The analysis is here, and the action is the 60, 70%. And I can give an example of that. If I go back to this slide here, when we did a project, and we've had all kinds of wins on this data here, but some of them are tougher to tell the exact amount you're going to save. But you're going to make people more efficient, and you're going to help make better decisions. One of the ones we did over here was with all this data here, and we were doing a project at one of our plants south of Buffalo, and we're basically getting so that we could get all their process data and marrying their process data with lab data together. And I was sitting in the meeting, and they were having an improvement project on the crude tower. And the engineer there, they kind of were talking. They said, "How long did it take you to get the data this week, Brad, for this meeting?" He said, "Oh, about 4 hours." The meeting went on for about 20 minutes, and they realized they needed more data. He says, "Okay, well, I'll go get more data, and we'll take me 3 or 4 hours, and we'll do it again next week." The difference is now we have all that data in there, and you can do it real time in the meetings. The data that would take 4 hours now takes 7 or 8 seconds for him to go in, pick the data points, and have that data available. And what have we done with that data on the crude unit? We've reduced waste by 4%. And really it was figuring out how to run that crude unit, figuring out what the best day looks like, and trying to run the best we can all the time. And the difference is we reduced waste from 8% to 4%. And that's meant $8 million in profit without spending any money. Basically just turning the knobs, as I call it, the right way. And now we've actually added some artificial intelligence on top of the data, and we're trying to get from 4% to 2%. But we've got 7 or 8 towers like this. So we see that we've got the potential $20 million in extra profit easy, maybe $40 or $50 million in profit without spending any money other than just implementing this and using the data to figure out what your best day looks like and making it better all the time. And I think for most companies, every company can draw a chart like this. Everybody's got their gold somewhere. And your gold might be in your ERP data, or it might be in your transportation data. In our case right now, our gold is in our process data. But this, by getting started with this, it gets the company on that path to start to look at that. And right now, it's exciting. When I sat down with the CEO in November and I said, we have figured out how we're going to make another now $8 or $9 million out of the crude unit, and I showed it, and he said, "Well, I didn't think you were there yet." And I said, "Well, remember I told you back in January, do you think we run any of our plants the best way every day, every hour?" And he says, "No." And I said, "Well, I didn't either." And I said, "I don't know how much difference it would make, but the first one we looked at, we've gained 4%, and we hope to get a couple more." And so it's just a matter of getting started by, and I think the preferred strategy is a great one. It gets you to set up your data warehouse quickly, and they work with you. They're like, you don't have to figure this out. They'll work with you. We're now good. My business analysts and everybody else can add data into this warehouse, but they'll work with you on integrating some of your other systems, and you start to marry that data together. And that's where just the huge benefits start to flow in. I think we've had one of our big wins is in the sales area, sales and pricing. I think our salespeople, and maybe they were rewarded at one point based on volumes. And the more they sold, the more volume they sold, the more they got. We needed to change that with the competition, and actually it was more becoming about pricing. And so we were able to deliver them a graph. I don't know if I have that one here. I might have something like that. No, I don't. I don't think I have that one. No. Okay, I don't. But anyways, basically we were able to give them a chart that would show the product. They could select by product or product group. It would show the sales and the pricing of what we'd sold for the last 3 months, 6 months, or whatever time frame, and what the volumes were, so that when they had a sales opportunity for a certain product, very quickly they could go and look and see, okay, what have we sold this product for? And that's changed it. We've changed the culture of sales to become price driven versus volume driven. And that's something we've had to do just because the market's changed.
Well, Bill, it's so exciting. I'm glad I muted myself because you would have heard me going, wow, that's incredible. So very exciting stuff and really appreciate it. And it begs a question I was thinking, as you're explaining this, what came to mind is tell me more about the role of IT and how it may have evolved or changed a bit, in your opinion, as you've gone through this data transformation, if any.
Well, it's a change. There's certainly where we've really gotten focused on analytics and AI is starting. I mean, we were running AI models trying to get this last 2% of the crude tower. Everybody's waiting for their turn. And we've put most of the, if I go back to this slide here. So we now have pricing live, sales live, inventories live, the GLs live, AP, AR, and transportation, and we're just working on quality and procurement right now. So we've almost got all the modules in, and we could have had these modules in the first 3 or 4 months, but we got distracted by all this money over here, and which is fine. So I mean, that's what's going to happen to you. You may decide to put in 3 or 4 or 5 of the JD Edwards modules, but then realize I've got some goals here, and we're soon going to get distracted by this over here because we spend $100 million on transportation. So can we get 5 or 10% of that back? I think so. There's no reason that you can't, because you just know in every process, without having the data turned information, you're not making the best decisions that you can. And you get into this stuff and it just gets really easy. So yeah, we're seen differently now. I mean, it's the CEO, when the last time when we sat down, he says, I think you're going to need more people. And the reality is, though, we don't. Like, now that we're this far in, he said, well, do we need more people doing this? I said, no, we're right on track to where we want to be. The stuff, you get the right structure in, you can go as fast as the users. In fact, we have 2 CEOs at our company, and they've said, like, this is fast enough. Like, this is good. This is really good. Keep it coming at this pace, but we don't really need to go any faster because your users need to catch their breath and go along with it. But at the same time, the users that don't have their stuff yet, they're waiting. They've seen what other people are doing. When I walk through the office, when I could work through the office, I've been working from home most of last year, you saw more and more people with Power BI screens up on their monitor. And you're thinking that's good, because that means those are people that are now not gathering data, which they would do in the past. They're analyzing and trying to make better decisions for the company. And it's just the way it goes now. So we have this issue right now where we don't have enough wax. So I get a call from the CEO. What does he want? He says, he tells me we need a Power BI screen. And I mean, that's the way he's talking now, where the customer service people can check the forecast on certain products, not every product, but they know if they get this list of 15 products, check the forecast against what the customers ordered. And if they're above forecast, we have to tell them, sorry, you're going to have to wait till next month. But that's where he's coming at and saying, can we put a Power BI screen together so that we can see what's going on that area? So that's how it's become the new way how we solve business problems, which Power BI wasn't even a thing 2.5 years ago at the International Group.
Oh, that's incredible. Bill, what I'd like to pivot to now is just take a few minutes, if you have any that you're comfortable sharing, and talk about a few of the big wins. What are some of the things you've accomplished, and anything you want to share? I think the audience would appreciate. So please.
Yeah. So actually, here was the sales, and actually I went too quickly through it. So this is, I've had to blank it out to keep the innocent, but
Sure.
This is basically a screen here where they could come in and they would select on the left-hand side what the product was that they wanted to see. And these dots would represent the price from low to high for a pound of wax. So it could be anywhere from 50 cents to $1.50 for potentially over on these dots here. And there would be the company name would be here, and they would see the full range. And if they clicked on the dot down below, it would list all the sales for that customer in that time period. And then the same thing for the sales, to be able to see, okay, take a product, let's see where are we shipping that product from. And just things like that, you couldn't imagine doing it. You would take too much time to do it, and just impossible to do. And so it's really changed the sales. And we have a weekly meeting now. Some of it's for COVID, all the managers, but the sales director, he brings up the Power BI sales reports every time for like 2 or 3 minutes. Here's how we're doing. Very quickly, you can see last year, previous year, forecast, how are we doing? People are just used to looking at those things now, and it's just changed the way when people want information, that's the way they go to get it.
No, I'm kind of curious.
Here's that one I talked about before. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yep.
No, I'm just going to ask you. I shouldn't interrupt, but I'll ask you really quick because you have some really nice graphics. How important or how much value, I should ask, did your team see in visualizing the data as opposed to maybe before it was more, text type reports? If there's been any impact, I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, totally different. I mean, that's how you see trends, right? I mean, otherwise, if someone just gives you a number, and I think it doesn't matter whether it's a financial report or it's how much inventory you have and everything else, unless you are right there every day, you don't know whether that number is good, bad, or otherwise, right? So that's what happens with this now is that if it is a report that looks kind of texty, well, you're able to click on that text and get the trends is the way we set things up. But it's the trend lines that really tell you what's going on, and that's the difference. Is a lot of our things have line graphs and bar graphs because that's really what helps you see what's going on. I mean, this next one here that I will show is this is one here around customer complaints, and so we're able to select. We could select just a single plant. I think that's what I've done in this one. You're able to select years. You could select by a product code. We segment our customers into A, B, C, D. You could select just one segment to see how they're doing there. But what we're able to get is, which would be a pile of time before, is here's an example here of the total number of invoices over this period of time versus the percent of complaints, right? And I mean, obviously it's good. We've gone in the right direction up to September last year. But if you were to try and we did have our quality people trying to get these graphs. So they'd look in the complaint system and they'd write those down in a spreadsheet, I guess, type them in. Then they go in and get the sales orders. How many sales orders do we have this month? And try to make these graphs. And the approach that I take with people is like, I don't want you ever need to make a graph again. Tell me the things that you do in your regular basis. Now you may get in and there's something new. You got new ideas, you're going to need it. But all the basic stuff where you spend 3 hours getting ready for the quality meeting, if you're the quality person, we want to stop that. We want you just to be able to bring these up and have your KPIs and your metrics and just be able to look at them. And that's what this does. And this is that example of marrying data from our operational excellence system with sales order and invoice counts from JD Edwards together. And very quickly people get these graphs to be able to look at them. So it's a big win, just being able to do that. Some other examples, transportation. We're just kind of getting this one fired up and stuff. But like I say, we spend over $100 million on freight. So this gives us a chance to start to look at different loads, compare how your different carriers are doing. We've got total demurrage costs, the cost by loads. You start to see, well, how come there's more demurrage with this place versus another? And you just find things out. You find out, I think one of the things they found out is we've got a lot more demurrage at one of our plants. Okay, well, how come, right? So, and you wouldn't have seen that without putting the graphs together and those types of things. But by getting those things pop out when you graph things, and then you go and say, okay, well, how come at plant X is demurrage twice as much? What's going on there? Is it are we not organized? Is it our loading racks? What is it? Let's go find it and let's save. And it just all adds up. I mean, since with AP on discounts, we used to only get about 90% of our discounts. Since we implemented the AP module, they're 100% because it shows up what's missing, what they've done. So it's not for us, it's not huge. It's $3,000-4,000 a month, but you know what? All that adds up. And what it was an hour to take a screen, and now we're going to make those extra dollars. So I think it's in some of the stuff, like it's really easy for us to measure our process control stuff. The other is you're just going to become more efficient and make better decisions. And I don't know if you need to measure it. I mean, I guess if you're the type of company where you've got to go back and show somebody how much money you save, but I think you're better off spending your time going after the next savings. That's the way we are. I mean, people can tell that the business is better and we're saving more money and we're making the right decisions. And that's what we want to keep doing.
Wow, I appreciate it, Bill. This is great. And as we kind of pivot towards winding down a bit, I would love it if we could spend a few minutes on any, I don't know, lessons learned or recommendations that you might have for folks that are just starting this journey or are in the middle of it. You know, what takeaways would you share? Get
started now, and And I think if you're trying to figure out how to get started, the preferred strategy is a good way to go. Just not say that because we're with them. It was interesting when I was working with Microsoft, Oracle, and IBM. When I told them why we were going to go with preferred strategies, once I'd made that decision, and I mean, they all think they still have another chance. The Oracle rep, I don't know who it was at the time, phoned Joe. He says, and I guess he talked to Joe. He says, I want to understand why is Bill doing this? Because we've got the best system. And I mean, and they were Oracle, who owns JD Edwards, right? And whatever, he looked like Joe showed him enough, and the Oracle rep came back with me and says, "You're doing the right thing. That's what I would be doing too." So it's like, get started with it. It's going to save you a lot of money. It's going to take away the risk, and then you get going. And then you pick a module where you've got an excited user that's been asking for information, and then put it together for them. And that's what we did. We started with AR, which is probably not going to be a module that's, well, it's going to help us collect better, and that matters. It's money, it's real money, and it's hard to measure how much better. I know our AR is in terrific shape now. It's better than ever. So how do you put a dollar value on that? I'm not sure. But you pick something like that that's pretty straightforward and simple, and you get started. And then you try to figure out, where's the goal to my company? And some of that might be in JD Edwards, some of it might be in some other systems. Get that stuff in, because now you've whet the appetite for it, and everybody will be excited. And then you're just going to keep getting bigger wins and bigger wins. And in some cases, you're not going to know where they are. I didn't know how good this was going to be in the plants, that we could potentially increase profits by 25 to 50% over the next couple of years without spending any money. I don't say nothing, but relative to the profits, we're not having to invest $100 million in capital to get 20 million back. We're talking about investing a few $1,000,000 and getting anywhere from 20 to $50 million return, is what we're looking at, which is unheard of. I mean, the CEO, when we talked to him, he's like, like really? Like, and he said to me, like at the end of the meeting, he says, "Bill, if this works," I said, "John, we've had this working not as good as I want it to work for the last 6 months, and we've made the company, wherever the financials end up, we made the company, because of reducing the waste in the second half of the year, $3 million that we wouldn't have had if we hadn't done this. And now, obviously, as we get better and the time goes on, it's a lot of money. That is what it comes down to. And every company's got that goal, and it's turning that information related to what makes a difference for you into information, analyzing, and, as I said before, finding out what your best day looks like and trying to repeat it over and over again.
You know, it's exciting, Bill, as I hear you speak. Executives, you mentioned the CEO a few times, business leaders and your team. It just sounds like the excitement or the value being, realized every day is growing as you see more wins. It's like the CEO saying, "Well, what's next?" And he has every confidence you're going to be able to deliver because of this performance. So that's just real exciting to see.
Yeah, that it is. I mean, it's just, it's what, and there's different definitions of it, right? You hear of all companies trying to become a digital company. There's lots of things that are that. I mean, we have our accounts payable invoices all get scanned by a company, and they come in and they match and do all that. But that's all nice. So that saves a couple of accounts payable people. But to me, this is what digitization is all about. It's turning the data into information and becoming a smarter company to make the right decisions more often, as close to all the time as possible.
Now, Bill, that's great. With the last few minutes, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn to a few questions I see out there. So, question one, have you begun to, or do you see the use of mobile capabilities are all in your future?
We see that as the future. We've actually just installed some different gateways for things. I mean, even though it'll work right on your phone. So we're starting to. People are starting to request it, especially around the plants with the process data, so that people can see what's going on in the plants. I guess why probably the last year there's been less of that is because no one's going anywhere, and everybody's got working from home, most of our business people that are using the system. So they've kind of got, and they're not going anywhere. So they've kind of got the system with them all the time. So that's why I think it's been slower. We are getting a few people, and they ask. I mean, we show them how to do it, but we haven't gotten as far as taking some of the screens and trying to make them extra mobile friendly, which you can do. You can try to make the buttons bigger and stuff like that. We have not done that, but it's certainly there in the future for where it's needed. I mean, so far, I just haven't tried to push it out without seeing the real need and advantage at this point.
No, perfect. Thank you, Bill. So one other good question, I think, in your opinion, what skill sets did your staff need to learn, and how were they able to get up to speed to be ready?
Yep, for sure. So I've got 3 people that work on this a lot. And even whenever I can get a few hours, I do a bit of it because it's exciting and fun. I mean, I don't get a lot of time. I mean, and I see, so, and what I've got is systems analysts and business analysts. So the 3 people, that's where they came from. So, they basically did online courses, and Preferred Strategies has some of theirs. Microsoft has a whole pile. They went through that and then just kind of went to town. And we worked on it and kind of came up with a standard look and feel for our screens. So we kind of make most of them very similar to that look. So then it's just going out and querying the data. But they are able to do the screens, work with the users, and then they've learned, and there's a little bit more of a learning curve there, but working with the Preferred Strategy consultants to learn how to go inside Visual Studio and make their own measures. There's a language called DAX, which is similar to like the Excel macro language, but it's different. I would say it's a little more complex, but more flexibility is what you get with it. But yeah, we certainly didn't have to go out and hire. So if you've got good to average systems analysts and business analysts, they can learn this stuff and fairly quickly.
That's great, Bill. And you know what? I'm going to turn on my camera here as we wrap up. I could honestly ask you questions and talk to you till the sun sets. I don't think our audience would want to sit there that long, but this is real exciting stuff. So, really appreciate you taking the time with us today. And normally for the audience out there, I would do an Amazon gift card, but honestly, I can't think of an Amazon gift card that's nearly as valuable as what Bill has shared with us today. So there's your gift for attending, and hopefully everybody got a little something out of this. If you think of questions after the fact, you can shoot them to me directly. Anybody at Preferred Strategies, and we'll work with Bill to get them answered. Um, Bill, any final thoughts for the audience before I go ahead and conclude?
Like I say, get started. That's what it's all about. It's not that difficult. Preferred Strategies definitely is one way to go. That they will definitely help you get there, because you suddenly get a whole heap of your data, I'd say the most complicated data, all done and ready to go, because the data, our process data, the operational excellence data, that data wasn't that complicated to bring in because there's just not as many data fields and all that stuff. Where your ERP, if you go and try and do something like that yourself, you're going to lose 3 years and you can't afford that. If I hadn't done this, I'd still be working on building cubes, and we wouldn't be saving the 8, 10, 20, 30 million that we're going to save over the next couple of years on the process stuff related to everything else. So yeah, get started, get at it. That's what you need to do.
No, I appreciate it, Wayne. And one other question, I knew this one would come up, so I should have thought to ask it. Are we able to share this recording with folks that attended today? If they would.
Yep, sure thing.
Okay. So
Yep,
the
sure
answer
thing.
to that question out there is yes. I'll make sure we have a copy available for those who request it. Bill, thank you very, very much for your time. We're real excited about what you're doing at IGI Wax. Obviously, Preferred Strategies, we're all things data. That's what we do every day. So thanks again, Bill. And thanks for everybody for spending this time with us today.
Thank you. I hear the sleds warming up, so I'm going out for a ride.
Have a good day. Enjoy.
Bye
Be
bye.
safe. Take care, everybody. Bye now.